Can you maybe give us a short sort of explanation, assessment as to why the marketplace of ideas concept is undermined by deliberate falsehoods?
I think when we look at the concept of free speech, what's often forgotten is not just should we or should we not regulate it, but we also have to ask the question whether it's constitutionally protected. So part and parcel of that will involve an inquiry into the purpose of the speech, what function it serves. So if the two major theories are truth and protection from the perspective of democratic self-government, the conventional theory, the dominant theory, is that of the marketplace. And it's my view that this is a theory which was formulated primarily by American judges in the early 20th century, prior to the digital age. So while I highly value free speech as a method of democratic accountability, I question whether or not the marketplace metaphor is adequate. I don't think all the ideas are wrong, but I doubt that they're adequate. Firstly, if you have a marketplace, and this is a kind of capitalist mentality, the idea is that everybody has access to the market. And it's true with the internet, everybody can have their own blog and they can express their views. But if one looks at the scholarship in the area, it's not a question merely of expressing your views, but how many people actually read your blog. So what I'm saying is, while there may prima facie be equal access to the marketplace, there is no equality of influence in cyberspace. So in that context, too, because the debate is not happening in real time, there is not necessarily the interchange and the cross-examination that can happen while we have debate. So that's one major failing. There are other things as well. I'm not sure that you want me to go into it, but I have 4 major points to make with respect to the marketplace. And I've tried to summarize them. There are 4 I's, as it were.
Yes.
The first I is basically the idea that we must understand the assumption behind the marketplace is citizens who are rational, who want to engage in deliberative democracy, and who have a degree of civility and good faith. And while I think this is certainly something we should aspire to, I'm not quite sure it exists. So the 4 I's I have firstly are this. Firstly, sometimes you can have hearers who are impetuous and undiscerning, which means they receive information without any critical filter, and they are swayed more by quick sound bites than sustained argument. I do not think this necessarily helps democratic debate, particularly if one is very gullible. You receive a tweet and you retweet it without checking. There's no need to check because you're not espousing a view, you are parroting a view. That's the first I, that you could be too impetuous. The second I is the fact that sometimes you have ideologues, and they're not interested in debate at all. They're only interested in advancing their point of view and frequently shutting down alternative points of views. So we are all familiar with cyberbullying tactic, and rather than promoting free speech, it may actually squash free speech. We could also have, in the context of Singapore, which I think is a major worry, we have sensitive racial and religious situation. It's quite possible for a third party, what I call a conflict entrepreneur, not necessarily a religious person, but someone who perhaps dislikes a religion, and he could say to another religious group B, hey, religious group A has done this, to upset religious group B. And I wonder whether the laws are strong enough to deal with that kind of falsehood. The next I've had one. Okay, is what I call the, aside from the ideologue, the Iago factor. And Iago, as you know, is a character in Othello, and he's a very wicked man who basically whispers into the ears, your wife is not being faithful to you, and bad consequences happen. Othello kills his wife. And there are people who obviously deliberately want to spread fake news, whether for profit, because I read about Macedonian teenagers who do this to get money, or for political benefit. And the last I would be the, rather than the rational man, the irrational man, the impassioned man, the emotional man who can't take an argument because they'll just react, and so they can't really engage. And it's quite clear in Singapore, we don't expect Singaporeans to be Vulcans. They aren't. The fact that they're emotional is taken into account by the fact that we have laws which are specifically directed at feelings. So feelings relate to something which is visceral rather than something which is cerebral. So in that context, if you put it in the internet, you multiply it, you can get people being very exercised online. And I've always known that what happens online can become it can become actual physical conduct, which might have very detrimental impact.
Yes. Thank you. That's very clear and helpful.